Okay, welcome back to another episode of Without Losing Your Cool. Have I got exciting news for you? This guy right over here, Pietro, welcome to Without Losing Your Cool.
So excited to be here. I mean, this has been years, I think, we've been talking about doing something like this. So I'm very excited to be here, being one of your besties. You have many, but you are mine, so we're good, right?
No, I wouldn't say I have a lot. I have a few go-tos, and you're like definitely a go-to. You're definitely a ride to.
1000%, yeah.
Well, so this is Pietro. He is my best friend, and girls, when I tell you the two of us love to yap, we talk about all things and not everything that we agree upon. Like we have differing of opinions. And this is why he's going to be on quite a few episodes this year, because what I'm hoping to instill in society is the ability to converse on topics that we don't agree on without losing our cool, without being like, oh, cancel that friendship. Oh, cancel that person. No. Let's go back. Let's dial it back a little bit in time where we used to be able to have conversations where we didn't agree and still remain.
Agree.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Maria Shriver and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. It's like, the problem is that people have forgotten how to have a conversation. Mm-hmm. And the conversation can obviously be where you agree to disagree and then you move forward. Friendships are built on that. I really do believe you get to choose the friendships you have. As a result of that, you end up being in a relationship with someone, like I will use you as an example, that flourishes and evolves. So our friendship has evolved, as you
100%.
know, like we've gone through ups and downs, and it's huge. It's huge to be able to have a conversation with you, and I'll speak to you, and you may disagree, but you're humble enough to say, you know what, I see your point of view, don't particularly agree with it, but let's move forward and be better friends and be better people because of it. And me, I'm learning something different and maybe a different narrative, a different side to the story that didn't occur to me as well. So we're learning something from each other as friends.
And that's the thing I think that's beautiful about any relationship, right? It's that the ability to look at it from both sides, because we all think our side's the right side until we hear another perspective. And then you're like, I hadn't looked at it. And that can be from upbringing. That can be from trauma. That can be for just living completely different lives,
right?
You know, and you're just like, oh, okay, well, I don't agree with it. It doesn't resonate for me.
Correct.
But isn't that what life is supposed to be about? Like
right.
You have dialogue and you learn.
Correct. And it's not fiction, it's fact. Because I'm coming from a place when we have conversations from experience. So it's a valid experience for me.
Right.
It might not be one for you, and you may have had a similar experience, but it hit you different. Mm-hmm. So it's just understanding that. And I think that's why our relationship has become so strong. I met you, and I'll never forget it. It was a random occurrence. I reached out to you. My partner and I had bought a business. Mm-hmm. You were a part of that business prior to us being in that business. And you walked in like you walk in. And it was just immediate. Like, you know, your gut is given by God. I'm very spiritual and religious. So that when you go by your gut, that's a gift from God.
I agree.
Is the gut instinct you're born with.
Yeah.
We tend not to do that because we're so worried about offending, and people are so sensitive, and and that becomes complicated, because how do you have authentic relationships?
Right.
If you're constantly worried about walking on eggshells around everyone. And that's been the problem the last 4 or 5 years, I feel.
Oh my God. I feel like I would extend that timeline. I feel like
10.
It's a good 10 years.
Yeah.
I think, and I say this ad nauseum on my podcast, but I push everything back to social media. As social media evolved, and then as algorithms became the beasts that they became, and as soon as you go into a rabbit hole, everything from that rabbit hole is pushed on you, and you get deeper and deeper in. And I find like you then no longer see any middle ground. Like you're only seeing your side of an opinion. And I think that's where life exists. And I know Matthew McConaughey got shit for this when years and years ago, I think it was the first Trump and Hillary election, which we won't go deep into politics because people don't like it.
Right.
And we're here for happy things.
Right.
But I remember him saying in an interview, because I think his autobiography was out at the same time.
Correct.
And he said that he's a centrist, that he sees good in the Democratic Party and he sees good in the Republican Party. And people lost their fucking minds. They wanted to cancel Matthew McConaughey so bad. But for me, as a woman, I feel like the beauty of life is living in the middle. And not because you're not making a
absolutely.
decision one way or the other, but I think being in the middle means you are mature enough, emotionally stable enough to have the capacity to see both sides and not be filled with rage or hatred.
Correct. And balanced.
And balance.
You're balanced.
That's what I think the center is.
So if we take a look at a very similar scenario where you're on a pendulum, the pendulum left or too far right is never, it's too heavy on one side, it's too heavy on the other.
100%.
A balance is so important because it makes you understand the rhythm that's necessary to go forward and be an individual who is open to everything and not specifics.
Yeah.
When we get too far left or too far right, there's specific narratives that you fall into. And that's when it becomes a culture of canceling because you are enraged. These things, some people are enraged, like they literally flip.
Yes.
And it's like you cannot say anything. So going back to what we originally were discussing, our friendship, I think that's
When he met
what
me.
built our friendship
100%.
is being able to always sit in the middle and understand, because we have other influences around us always that are causing us to look at things very differently. But as long as you're authentic to your true self, the gut, which was what I was talking about, your gut instinct, you've got nothing to worry about. Right. Because you can always be very diplomatic in any situation you're in. You know, I am very good, and you are too. I've always said this, at reading a room. There's so many people that can't read a room. It's like, for example, you're sitting in a situation and you can feel the topic is thick. So what do? What do? I remove myself from that, but not like literally getting up and leaving. It's sort of like nonchalantly changing the topic, you know, where some people are like, what are you talking about? And you're like getting into it now. And that's the catalyst. Like that's what you don't need in a conversation. You need to know how to read a room and how to exit stage left if it gets too thick.
I agree.
For me.
I love that. And you know what? And I think where the power lies in that is the ability to keep peace, and not keep peace at the cost of your own beliefs and your own, you know, ideals and morals and whatnot, but just like looking around and being like, this is not the place for, but people don't do that anymore. They're like, this is now, this is the place, this is the time, go. And you're like, what the fuck? No, it's a dinner party.
Because they want to have a platform and they want to be important, and everybody wants to be a celebrity these days, it seems. And, you know, with Instagram and you bringing up even social media, every platform, everybody wants to be a celebrity. And I don't know why that's become so important to people, to become so important that other things in your life are not, you know? And I believe very wholeheartedly that when you lose a spiritual version of yourself, a religious version of yourself, you tend to lose what your core values are. And if you lose your core values, then you're just this object, I feel, a vessel of nothingness. And that's the problem. And I see a lot of this around me. There's a lot of people who will dress the part, but inside it's black. And not a bad black, it's just a black that is not something, it's not a magnetic force that attracts me to that. And I feel like if magnets were a thing with people, because we are built with spiritual energy, a lot of that is what detracts me from approaching a lot of people, because I can sense that immediately.
Yeah.
They're not authentic. That's all spiritual energy.
Right.
And I really believe that if you don't have that authenticity and it doesn't exude in you, people can read that. Now, whether they want to pursue a relationship with you or not is besides the point.
Right.
But having that is very important. And I think that's why I have 5 close friends. I can count them on one hand. And that's enough for me. It was a very different story when I was 20.
Well, yeah. And I think
Right?
because
You're a
you're
very
20, you don't know
different
who you
place.
are. You know what I mean?
And you want to be accepted and you want
100%.
people to love you and you'll
Yeah.
do whatever. You'll change. I have to say this because I heard this morning. I watched Candace Owens. I love her.
Yep.
People love her. People hate her. But she said there was a room full of 18 people. And this is the truth. This is how you know you're a sheep or if you're not a sheep. Okay? And this is not to be taken in any way, but at face value. 18 people, 17 of them were CI agents. One of them was someone from off the street. There is something they're looking into a box. They see a shape. So they obviously interview all of the CI agents first, and they all say that the shape is square, what they see in the box. So when it gets to the last person has no idea that these other people are staged. This person sees a triangle. It's actually a triangle in that box. They've been told to say it's a square the whole time. What does the last person say? It's a square.
No, even though they saw the truth.
They didn't want to be singled out. And that's what happens when you're young.
Well,
You'll follow that pack
Yeah.
right into the hole, the lemmings off the cliff,
Yeah.
to be accepted.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right pack that you've chosen to follow. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. 100%. And I think that, and I know we're going to do another episode, but I think where I noticed it really, really early on was because I had my girls young, you know what I mean? So it was very evident that, you don't realize when you're little and you're going through it that you're trying to fit in. But then when you are able to step back and witness your children trying to fit in and struggle to fit in,
Right.
you see that pack mentality live out, in like real time. And it's not always easy to redirect somebody, and I think we're seeing it now. And again, social media.
Yeah.
Kids and people will just follow a trend. And that's the thing. You'll even go on like your explore page, for you, and you'll just see like how to get trending, how to go viral, how to get impact, how to everybody's selling something, and go way, way back to where we started. When I met you and Michael had taken over a day spa. And and I think the thing that I loved about what you two were doing in that moment was you guys were doing it out of a passion.
Right.
You were doing it because it meant something to both of you. And you were like, we love this. We love skincare. We love pampering. We love escaping from life for just an hour, 2 hours out of your day to come. And you set up. So when I walked in, I was like, and speak to authenticity, it's like I walked in and I was like, wow, these guys mean it. Whereas you go into other businesses and you're like, oh, this is an enterprise.
Right.
This is not a passion project.
You can tell.
You can tell
Immediately.
You can tell when people set up business.
Yeah.
And you see it on the internet, like everybody's trying to churn out numbers.
Correct. And you know what? Going back to that, when Michael and I decided to open Madison, I feel we were pioneering an initiative at that time as well, because we were two men. And in that environment, in the spa environment, you don't necessarily see a man when you walk in to a spa ever. I mean, now it's a very different environment that we're living in. And I'm glad that it's more accepted. But it was sort of like, do we do this? And how do we do it right?
Right.
So we can bring a level of authenticity to people that it doesn't feel like when you walk into this that it's a business. It feels like you're walking into Cheers. Remember?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like everybody's a friend.
Some of you might
there.
be too young.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But everyone's your friend. And I was invested in every single customer.
And then you sold it.
in.
And when you guys sold it, I'm telling you, the building stayed the same because I would continue to go there for manis and pedis and facial.
We gave her the keys to the castle.
You did. And she burned it down.
She burned it down. The castle.
And so it's going back to what you said earlier about people being really connected to self, and knowing what self is. And I don't necessarily feel that we're living in a time. I think I should rephrase this. I think more people are rediscovering self than before, which I think is a beautiful thing. But I will say we've got a long way to go. But you can tell when somebody's not soul led.
Absolutely.
You
1000%. And I think because they haven't gone through the journey that I have had in my experience, that you've had in your experience. And sometimes past trauma, I was watching The Golden Bachelorette. Everyone can start laughing now. But there was one gentleman, he's in his 65, I think he was, still suffering from trauma when he was a younger person from a parental trait. I can't remember if it was his father that abused him or his mother that abused him. But it's like, if you don't figure that out sooner than later, the past always has a way of rearing its ugly head. And if you haven't come face to face with it properly, where you've been able to sort of like write it down, burn it so it just goes away, because I do that a lot. I write intentions and burn them so that they're literally ingrained in the universe. If you don't do that, I think it's very hard for you to move on in relationships, in friendships, and relationships, not just like two people, with your parents.
Oh my gosh.
Or
the
with your
parent-child
siblings,
relationship.
or with your coworkers.
Yeah.
It manifests differently in each of those scenarios, but essentially you come across as that same person, right? To them.
Yeah.
So it's, how do you change that? How do you change the narrative of you? I've been working on this forever.
Well, I mean, you and I have similar backgrounds.
Yeah.
We have a lot of childhood trauma.
Yep.
And that trauma manifested into teenage eating disorder, which is amazing, because in my book, Raising Your Kids Without Losing Your Cool.
Correct.
I talk about how important it is to work your shit out before you get pregnant. I didn't, because I was 19. I didn't even know that I had trauma. Like, my sexual abuse, my rape, all the things, my dad's neglect, the alcoholism, the verbal abuse, the violence that I lived with. I didn't know that was trauma, because I didn't know that wasn't normal. I didn't know that that this was just life. How do you know? You don't have any discernment as a kid, right? So I went along, met a guy, fell in love, had all my shit and nonsense, put that into my first child.
Layer that into the relationship.
Then layer it into the relationship, layer it into my womb, layer it into the pregnancy, just get it all in there, make a big old, not pot pie, but a big old crock pot full of stew.
Like a trifle where you see the layers, but you don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And then just carry on. And it wasn't until the shit really hit the fan for me in my early 30s that I was like, what? I feel crazy pants. My marriage was a wreck. My kids were okay, but we had some cutting. We had eating disorders.
Yeah.
I had an eating disorder. And, then you go out, if you don't deal with that shit, it comes back to bite you in the ass. And I say in my books, boys get eating disorders.
We do.
Boys get sexually abused.
We do.
Parents of sons, if you are not checking on them because you think these things are gender related, they're not.
They're not.
Are you okay to share about
of course,
any of that?
Like I was sexually molested by my cousin when I was 4 years old. And there are moments that you have as an adult where something will happen, it'll trigger that, right? So how do you manage that trigger? Well, years ago, I was blessed to find a partner in life, Michael, who you know very well. And he was very level-headed about certain things. And he had told me, like, these are traumas that you're going through in your life and you should really manage them. So I went to something called the Forum. Now,
oh my God, Yanni took me to
so I did the Forum, and
it was a prerequisite. That and skiing. I had to do the Forum and learn to ski if I wanted to be in the family.
And he gave me that sort of, Michael gave me that same sort of like, you got to do this because we can't move forward as a couple if you don't. Okay. So before
cultish,
this too.
Though. I mean, there were some good that came out of the Forum, but I got to tell you, I learned some shit about my husband while I was pregnant when we didn't know I was pregnant. That I don't think necessarily served the relationship.
Do you know what I have to say? I do believe that there is a level of cultishness to the Forum, the Landmark it used to be called. But Michael, as you know, had come from a cultish-like behavior. He had left the religion that he was in, and he was part of the
through his upbringing, not through his choice.
Correct. And he chose.
It's kind of like when parents make their children vegans,
correct,
without children having a say.
Right. It's like you're born into that, so you don't have the choice. But when he was finally being able to make the choice, he left. So coming from this background, I was like, if he's coming to tell me that this is something that he needs me to do, and I love him unconditionally, I was mature enough to say, you know what, this is probably a good idea, considering he'd already taken it as well, right? Before this.
And did you see something in him, like when he brought that to you? Did you see something in him that kind of a light bulb went off where you were like, I love you.
Yes.
And there are elements of you that I love that I don't have within, because I did see that in Yannick, even though we were 19.
Right.
I looked at this man and I was like, wow, this guy's really
healing.
Yeah. He's so grounded, even as a punk ass kid.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's something about him that in his core, I don't have access to.
Healing.
Yeah. So
there was healing there for him. And when I saw that, I was not healed at that time. And healing is so important because you forgive. You'll never forget what's happened in your life. That's ingrained. It's stamped into your brain. But if you can forgive, my God, that is a huge power. You take back that power. And I think that's huge. This is the thing that
people don't realize, right?
Yeah.
Like you're stomping around mad at what happened to you, what has been done to you, what's been put on you.
How dare they? And you continue to deflect. It is valid, but not functional.
No, because they're gone.
Yeah.
Like, with my dad's passing, he had 2 families and there were 6 of us, 3 in the first family, 3 in the second, 4 boys in total and 2 girls. And the only people who did the work to heal the bullshit of being children to him were the 2 girls.
Right.
And the boys, the man died. He's had dementia for 3 years. The last 2 were, he was not even verbal. None of the boys, not one of the boys, worked that relationship out. And now it's done. Like now it's with them forever. Forever. So the only person that suffers when you walk around mad for somebody unhealed and what their unhealed self has dumped onto you, the only person that suffers is you. When are people going to wake up and notice this?
You know how you said that eating disorder is not gender specific?
Yeah.
Yes. I think what's sad, and I think it's changed, and I'm so grateful specifically for young boys and now who eventually grow into young men and then adult men, is that we're allowing them to be vulnerable now more than we were. I was not raised in an environment. I have a Sicilian father who I love with all of my heart. He's accepted everything in me, but we weren't able to, as a man or as a boy, to express that. You were supposed to be tough.
For sure.
And girls are supposed to be soft and sensitive. So, if it's never been a conversation, what happened to me when I was 4 years old.
Did you ever tell your parents?
I did.
I don't remember.
And they had a hard time with it. My mom more so because it was her brother's son. So it's almost, are you sure? It was a question. Are you sure that happened? Or
I got asked that by
and
everybody.
It's like no one really believed me. So then I started questioning, like, did that really happen? But it did happen.
Yeah.
I know, because it was a physical thing. It wasn't just mental where people are telling you and they're sort of then gaslighting you. These are things that happened to you as a child and you remember them at 4 years old.
Wow.
It's probably the only thing I really remember when I was 4.
Well, because then your brain
traumatized.
Yeah, then your brain just
it just closed. And then, into my early teens, like I developed an eating disorder, and I can sit here confidently and say I know it was from huge amounts of I just didn't love myself enough, and I think that the one reason why it manifested into so many years of it is because I wanted to look a certain way, to be tough. I didn't feel I was tough because of what had happened to me when I was 4. I felt like I was emasculated somehow. So I needed to turn that around and always be thin and strong, and that manifested into an eating disorder. And it almost killed me. Like there were moments where I had to go into the hospital, unbeknownst to my parents, even because my intestines were because I had bulimia, where
Yeah.
you vomit it up.
Yeah, me
So,
too.
you go out and you're eating and you're having a fabulous time, and every part of your brain that evening is not enjoying the evening with your friends. It's how you're getting rid of this, because you cannot take it home with you, because it's going to manifest into
Well, you'll get fat.
Yeah. And you did not imagine years, and imagine that trauma in your body. It's toxic too,
It is,
right? And then your body then starts to, you traumatize your body, and your body starts to like work against you. So you start developing areas of fat, because your body is like, you're starving me. I need to figure this out. And so it becomes counterintuitive, like, so
That's the thing with eating disorders. They don't really, they're not sustainable.
they're not sustainable. So
I laugh because, I only laugh because I'm talking to a best friend here, and we both have overcome our eating disorders.
And the laughing doesn't come from like a making fun of.
No.
The laughing is like, how stupid
was
I to put myself through that for the weirdest of reasons for me personally.
Right.
To come, and thank God I came out of the back end of this knowing that I'm worth so much more than what any other person in this world thinks about me.
Right.
As long as I love myself, I put myself first. And that's when it sort of started changing, when I met Michael and he forced me into Landmark, and I learned certain behaviors and how to manage certain ways of seeing things to better myself and to better the relationship.
But can we also talk about this? I am so sick and tired of this generation being raised that your feelings are right. They're feelings.
Correct.
They are momentary.
Correct.
You don't build your whole life around how you feel
Right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
Right now. Because what precipitated the feeling?
Right.
Okay. What were you going through? Like, you and I, all our trauma, if we built our lives around the feelings that were attached to the trauma,
we wouldn't be here right now.
We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be in happy, healthy help.
Right.
We wouldn't be business owners.
Correct.
We wouldn't be able to, be in relationships with people that we don't always agree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't be a whole human.
You wouldn't be a whole human. And I think this is for anyone who's looking to be successful in life, and whatever that means to you.
Right.
If you don't work on every part of your life, on yourself.
Yes. For yourself,
you can never grow in anything else. You'll never make the money you want. You'll never run the businesses you want. You'll never manage the team that you would want, because it's always being foreshadowed by the stuff that happened to you and that narrative you have in your head. So if you're able to overcome that however, there's people that maybe won't go to Landmark, but they'll do a different type of spiritual journey.
I have a beautiful book, Loving Yourself Without Losing Your Cool.
There you go.
Comes with a workbook, and it's like every chapter there are exercises. And the only reason I wrote this book is because I was so upside down backward, and I have done the forum. God, Yannick and I were church leaders in a non-denominational church. Like, I have done the spiritual work. I have done the heavy lifting.
And it's not easy, right?
It's not easy.
Not.
But you know what? It's worth it.
Correct.
Because, I'm not perfect. You and I were just talking when you got here. We're like, my anxiety, like, it doesn't make you perfect.
And it doesn't change. So there are certain things that you can work out in your life. Okay. You can work out all of those kinks, the traumas, and how to manage them. To forgive is huge. I have always had anxiety because I'm a perfectionist.
Yes.
I don't know what that means, but to me that means
it means you're
I
perfect.
like things a certain way. And do I manifest that by forcing other people to be that way? No. Because another topic I'd like to discuss eventually or now is managing that expectation.
I do want to talk about that too. Expectations in relationship.
Right. And not just in relationships, but even
in the world.
Because we always say, like, for example, I like this a certain way, and why doesn't that person do it this way?
Right.
And I think you're ridiculous. And you build this whole story around that person being awful because they don't do it the same way. How about their way might be better than yours
but
or
also,
mine?
How
right?
about their way works for them? your way
Correct.
works. Like where's the grace? I just find like we live in a world where like nobody is giving anybody any grace
Right.
anywhere. And I'm like,
No grace, yeah.
okay. I remember going back to my church days when I was I was a arts and ministry leader. But whatever you feel about the Bible, we're not here to discuss the Bible. But I remember something that always stood out to me when I was in the church, aka cult, was the passage where Jesus was with all the people and one of his disciples was pissed because he was hanging out with a whore. And Jesus was like, he without sin, you be the first to cast the first stone.
First stone.
And
yeah.
and that's just, that always plays through my mind. Not in a like, let's stone people in the street. Although some people we should go back to that with some people.
Certain
I
people.
digress. What I'm saying is like, can we just pause? Can we just take pause and examine giving grace? Not because that person is right, not because that person is better than you, but simply because they are a human being. And it's not easy for me because I am a Judge Judy as well. Like
I
there's a lot going on in here that is like so off balance that I have to work so hard to keep balance
every day.
But I have the ability, because I fight to have the ability against my nature, which is to be a judgy Karen.
Yeah.
I want to melt. That's why I did for a little while. I don't know if you saw my reels, mind your business. Because I have to remind myself, bitch, mind your business.
Mind your business.
Mind your business.
Yeah, it's true. You don't know what's going on.
No, or
it's
where they come
horrible
from.
behavior sometimes. I have to really check myself sometimes because there are people that are going through a lot of stuff. I'm very blessed. Michael and I have created a life for ourselves and we've worked very hard. But yes, I can sit here and say I am very blessed spiritually, in a relationship, just everywhere. But but
you did the work. You built
did
it.
the work,
and
absolutely.
People are mad at you. People are mad at me.
Correct.
And I'm like, dude, I should be like, if you go through statistically my childhood, you as well, if you went through piece by piece, we should be going to safe injection sites.
But I'm not mad.
And I'm not down on safe. I'm just saying that's where we should be. But we've done the work. Like, it's your job.
Right.
It is your job.
Right. But I'm not mad at them for having me part of their story. Talk about me all you want.
See,
if
you're better than I am.
If that highlights your day, wonderful. Because I don't actually think of it. I don't think of you. Yeah. And if you have me part of your story, great. And I'm hoping that part of that story also highlights some of the successes I've had. If you're going to sit there and talk, right?
If you're going to yap about me,
I mean,
tell the
make
whole
it
story.
worth it, you know?
Well, any conversation about you is worth it.
We have a lot of greatness in us, everyone.
Yes.
And it's how you feed that. You know, like a plant can't grow without water. And if you don't water your soul, going back to what I said about empty vessels walking around, well, then you're an empty vessel. And all you can do is highlight other people's successes because that's where your narrative's coming from, that anger. And I don't think these people are angry at us. I think they're angry at themselves for not actually putting the work in.
Yeah.
So that's the other side of it too. And I can't help you. You got to help yourself. I had to help myself. It's just like someone who quit smoking. They got to do it. You can't. Yeah. I told my partner, you need to quit smoking. He didn't. We had a health scare and he has. And that'll get into the whole wellness side. But an alcoholic cannot stop drinking unless they know it's a problem. Right. They need to know it's a problem. You can't stop smoking until you yourself know it's a problem. People can tell you all kinds. I can't stop being who I am unless I know it's a problem. Right. I got to be familiar with that. Yeah. And if I don't know it, even though you tell me, I think you're crazy, right? You're the crazy. I'm not. Until one day I'm like, oh my God, the narrative of all these people is that I'm crazy. Like, I'm the only person here that thinks that I'm not.
That I'm not.
I'm the common denominator here.
Well, and that's what I always say to myself, but also that's how we raise the girls. It's like everywhere you go, there you are. You know, if you can't make friendships work, the friendships are not working with everybody.
Every single person.
Your partnership, like, you know, with Yannick and I, we've been together 36 years, so there's been some infidelity. And, you ask yourself, and this, I know people hate this topic because everybody wants to blame the cheater. But the reality is, there's a reason that person cheated.
Yeah.
Yes, some people are shitty human beings.
Agreed.
And they just cheat. And that's a narcissistic sociopath, and you should extricate yourself from that.
Yeah, and I agree with that.
But
Yes.
there are also instances in a relationship when it is built poorly by both parties and one person does not recognize their part in that,
Correct.
and they are victimized
Correct.
by their life and point the finger. You know what I mean?
Wants to play the victim.
Wants to play the victim.
Yeah.
But when you mature and you step back and you're like, okay, this really hurt. This sucked. I don't understand why this person retaliated to the badly built relationship we have
Right.
with this.
With this.
And I hate it. And you have a choice to make. You either cut and run or you get introspective and you're like, okay, where's my load? Where's my load in this? It's the same thing when you raise children. Children don't just wake up assholes. You make them assholes.
Oh God. This is wonderful that you're saying this out loud because it's true. You are a product of your environment. We were, and so are your kids
100%.
and their kids and it's like you're in a hamster wheel. You got to get off at some point if you don't want it to spin out of control.
Or in the repetition of the habit,
or
of
the
pattern,
habits, yes.
of the tradition.
Correct.
Some traditions are meant to be broken.
Yeah.
Other traditions should come back.
Agreed.
Like we should talk about spirituality with our
Agreed.
children. We should pray. We should
Agreed.
acknowledge a higher power. It can be God. It can be Buddha. I don't care who it is.
But
we need to be spiritual.
And stop idolizing
yes.
celebrities. That's one thing that I would like.
I know.
When we start idolizing celebrities to a point where they can do no wrong, and when they do, and we've seen this, and then we are quick to put them on that pedestal, but we are quick to rip them off too. So
even quicker.
Even quicker. Where, when you have spirituality, it's different. You're idolizing something that gives you breath, that gives you a three-dimensional point of view, that gives you inspiration, joy. These are things that you can take with you every day of your life.
Right.
Loving a
And
person
pass
so
on.
hard doesn't bring you joy. It almost feels the opposite. It's like you want to actually get to that. And that's where we're all at right now.
Yeah.
Not me particularly, but
Yeah.
everybody wants to be a celebrity because they want that love.
Which
when
is
you
not
can get that
love.
Yeah.
Well, first off, you could pour that love into, build that love for yourself.
Correct.
Once you love yourself to that level of celebrity, then it doesn't matter. And it's interesting because I took about a year and a half off, a lot to do with the marina and the renovation of the house. And my studio kept getting delayed. But I have to say, I'm 55. The year and a half that I took off from doing my podcast and some other stuff was so healing because even at that age, it became really obvious to me that I was looking for a taste of celebrity. And I didn't think I was. I was like, I wrote my books because I wanted to tell the stories. I wanted to inspire, encourage, and maybe let some parents off the hook of feeling like they have to do what society's doing, and also in healing yourself. But what was attached to it was an outcome that was very much, I want people to like me because I was always the odd girl out.
Right.
I didn't have friends growing up. I didn't have friends. I had one friend in high school. I had a boy, like, you know what I mean? Like I was very lone wolf.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what being accepted felt like because I never was.
Right.
Do you know? And I think the very real danger in what we're seeing right now is that people want external love more than they're willing to do the work on internal love. And to your point about celebrity, I posted a reel about this just a couple weeks ago, and it's something that is infuriating to me. So we went to Taylor Swift, and Yannick posted that he was going. It was the first time. Our girl, lover, hater, my girls have grown up with Taylor Swift.
Yeah, and that's beautiful.
She saved their lives. Her music saved their lives. through so much stuff that I'm not privy to disclose because it's not my story. But so our attachment and relationship to her is very spiritual, is very cathartic, and we respect the artist in her. Do you know what I mean? I'm not looking to her to tell me what to do with my life. She's going to be 35. So far hasn't had a very healthy, happy partnership. You know what I mean? Hasn't been lucky in love. So I'm not looking to her for those things. And I think people are fucking confused.
Right.
You can separate the artist from the human. And so Yannick posted that he went, and one of the very, very first comments was, I hope you're still pro-life.
Here we go.
Here we go.
How does it go sideways, right?
How does it go sideways?
Innocent. Yeah.
He's just a dad who's never gone to Taylor Swift and we haven't missed a tour, the girls and I.
Yeah.
So here's a dad
right.
who's going to his first time. He's doing something with all three of his daughters at long last. It's a moment in time. Agree with it or don't, but don't ask the man if he has daughters. What do you think? If it's between his daughters' lives and not carrying a baby, I can assure you he's not going to let his daughter die on a table, which is also not your fucking business.
Agreed.
But come on now.
Agreed. But what does that have anything to do with? Like, Yannick's at a concert, a Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah.
And this person has nothing better to do to spew hate. And I think that's the problem with social media, is that many people, including that person, would never go up to Yannick in person and say that. They hide behind the keyboard.
Some of these bitches be crazy.
Right?
They might.
And so it's like, if you are that opinionated, then I hope to God or to the universe that you are that authentic in your real life as well. Because if you're not, then you shouldn't be saying a damn word on social media to anyone.
Well, and this is the thing I think about too, and I love that. And amen, amen, amen. And this is the thing, and you and I talk about this all the time, is like, the reality in life is we all can have an opinion until we are faced with that circumstance in real time.
Absolutely.
In real time.
Absolutely.
Because I know how I feel about, abortion. I know how I feel. I got pregnant unexpectedly with a boy I knew for 4 damn months. I was 19. We started dating when we were 18. By the time it was middle of the summer, we were pregnant. I'll tell you, I was that bitch. I was having no children because I had a vision for my life.
Yeah.
I was like, I am a dancer. I'm a performer. I'm going to Hollywood. I am going to be an actress. I am going to be famous. I'm never going to get married because marriage looked like fucking hell.
Hell on earth.
Watching what my mom went through.
Right.
I'm like, no. I had all this list. And then along comes this boy who I'd known since I was 15. And we're pregnant.
And you're pregnant.
And I laid there and I wrestled because in high school, as girlfriends, we would talk about what would you do? And I was like, abortion. Absolutely.
Right.
And then bam, the rubber hit the road.
Right.
At 19. And I was like, so for me, my reflection was, I believe spirits come to you, souls come to you to go through you so they can come to this plane and have their karmic journey that their soul is.
Right. That's what was meant to be.
That was what meant to be. Mm-hmm. And I was like, who am I to cut that off? Who am I to decide that this being should not? And then we ended up having our beautiful daughter, Brianna. We stopped our cocaine habit immediately. Yannick quit smoking immediately. We're two dumbass kids. We don't know our asses from a hole in the ground, but we're going to do it. We're going to do what's right for this baby. And we did it. But that's not to say that if I then had a complication and bleeding out and and it's like, well, we can't. Right. So you got to lose the girl and the baby. You know what I mean? So I think you don't know until you're actually standing in the exact situation you have such a firm conviction about.
Yeah. And
right?
It'll change in a heartbeat when you're having to make the decision, and it's the decision you have to make.
Yeah. And nobody did judge. I wouldn't judge you if you had chose.
No.
I have friends who got pregnant who didn't have their children.
Right.
I love them.
Yeah.
That was the right decision for them.
Right.
This was my path. This was my journey. So I just think like, let's just all have a Manhattan
Going back to what
and
you're
relax.
saying, just give people grace because you don't know where they're coming from. And you can judge it very high level at a macro or micro. And both are going to be very different scenarios. You and I were very different people when we were 20, 15, 20 to now. I'm 48. We're very different people. The person that I was 20 made the most horrible decisions. I wouldn't make them now at 48.
What's one of your worst decisions you made when you were 20?
When I was 20,
I think you dated a girl.
I dated a girl. You know, the worst decision was having unprotected sex, knowing what was going on.
Oh, right. Yeah, because 28 years ago.
And I lived with that regret. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen to me because I was so shocked. And it, like, yeah, knowing everything. It's actually just like driving home drunk. That's another horrible decision because I remember it like it was yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah. And never did it again. But I'm like, you know that commercial that you used to see where the glasses line up in front of each other and it gets blurry?
Oh,
and blurry?
right.
That was where I was at. I was at the last glass and I was driving home.
By the grace of God, you were safe.
Yeah. I think it was a couple of angels that helped me out that night because I don't know how. I don't remember A, B, C, D. I remember getting home and I waking up the next morning, like, where's my car? Is in the garage. Like, those are bad choices.
Right.
And including now, I mean, now when Michael and I go out and we know we're drinking, it's an Uber. It's not even, it's a hard no to driving. You know, because it's not worth it. And you see people whose lives have been changed forever because of that one mistake. Well, I can't leave my car in the parking garage. Well, why not?
Why not?
You'd rather kill someone?
Why
like,
not?
I don't know why the choice is so hard to make. Like, it's not at the end of the day. And it's $20 versus a lifetime of remorse for perhaps killing someone or killing
yourself.
You. So it's not a hard choice to make. But again, every situation is different. I know people who still do.
Wow.
And it's sad. And how do you know, when we're hosting a party, we make sure if someone looks inebriated or 3 sheets to the wind, that we provide them that safe house so they can sleep at our place.
Yeah.
We will provide them an Uber home, something.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be responsible as a host too.
100%.
But that would be the worst decision of my life too.
Yeah.
Unprotected sex and driving home beyond drunk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not proud moments.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I mean, and this is the thing, right? Like, we all have them and it's just, can we just all just relax a little bit and remember where we were when we were younger? And this is the other thing is parents, and I know I rag on parents. Some people might think I rag, but because I'm on the other side of my parenting journey, I can say this, that you are their primary influence. And I can literally count on one hand how many kids we see from my kids' entire school experience from beginning to end, and how many parents I'm still friends with from that time in their lives. And I can tell you that number is zero. So parents who are more concerned with how they look to the other parents that their children are currently in school with, I'm here to tell you, stop. Like, you need to be more concerned with how you are as a parent to your children, not the society that you are temporarily in a relationship with.
And I think that parents like us, and I'm not a parent, but we can get into that, but I do think that it's very important that parents raise their children to be able to fall and to be able to hurt and to go through those experiences without trying to protect them all of the time.
Yeah.
I know my parents didn't protect me in the ways that you would think that parents should protect you, but where they did protect me was they gave me the skills to be able to handle what's outside of those doors.
Exactly.
So I became a full functional human being, being able to manage my budget, being able to have a house, my finances, all of those things, which I think are essential.
Yeah.
Versus knowing how to shop or protect me from, a breakup or none of that stuff. You cried hard, you live hard, you're a better person because of it. All of the trauma that I went through, and I'm sure you can say the same, has gotten to us to this point here. Without that, I don't think I would be this person. And I'm grateful for this person.
Well, that's
I'm
what I
grateful
say
for
all the
this
time
person.
too.
I don't have any regrets, really. Apart from eating that cake last week. But I mean, that's just that.
Stop. That's now I got to talk to you about your ED again.
It was awful. No, but it was like.
You're Italian. You're going to eat the cake.
I have to pick and choose the calorie. Like, when you're out, I'm sidebarring now, but you're out and you're like, okay, I have this many calories that I want to put in my body and they have to be good. Why am I choosing that? Well, it's a sour key. That's why. You know what I mean? Like,
sometimes I'm like, okay, so calories in, calories out.
Right.
And then I'm like, I'm having the caramel popcorn.
Yeah.
I just am. I'm just having it. Because you know what? The other thing too is like, it's the stress that's created in your body by constantly fighting over what to eat and what. Just fucking eat.
Yeah.
I could step off the curb and get hit by a bus, and I can guarantee you my last words would be like, I should have had the caramel popcorn.
Or the burger and cheese.
Or the cheeseburger and the Coca-Cola. And that's another thing you see going crazy on the internet is like, grow your own food. Yes, because food is, well, we don't want to get into it, but food is disgusting.
Yeah.
What they're putting in our food, what they're putting on our food. So I'm not saying in our house, everything's organic and we're blessed to be able to afford it.
Correct.
But I tell you, I am not bowing down and giving myself 50 lashes because I had a cheeseburger, fries, and Coke.
No, I'm
I
not
am
doing
still
that either.
doing that.
I'm going to still do that.
You know?
And it might even be from McDonald's. It's fine.
You know
what I mean?
We had McDonald's
It's
the other
fine.
morning because we were
It's
out
fine.
late at Taylor Swift.
It's fine.
And I said to Yannick, I said, you know what? I'm in for some chemical breakfast today. I'm just in for it. Are you in for it? And he's like, you know what? It's been
a hot minute, but let's do
Let's
it.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it. So I think, going back to what I said about grace is like grace and fun. Can we just lighten up a little bit? And
Grace
have some fun?
and fun. Life is about living. And you know what? We're always so regimented. I know I am. I have a routine. Sometimes the routine gets boring, and I'm very good with routine. Michael's a little different with routine. I'm excellent.
He hates it or he loves it?
He does not like routine.
Me neither. So
He
Michael
hates it.
and I are the same people, and you and Yannick are the same people.
I could eat chicken forever, chicken and rice. You know what I mean? Just because I'm fine with that. He likes variety, and that's fine too. But
we go out for dinners, and you have a good time.
Yeah, I absolutely have a good time. Absolutely have a
Like,
good time.
am I breaking your chicken and rice?
Not at all.
I don't want to.
I'll tell you that it's one thing about me is that I'm flexible. And I like everything. And I'm not that person that will say, oh, disgust. Well, unless I've tried it. I've tried crickets. I've tried ostrich. I've tried kangaroo.
Did you hear my producer in the background? He's like, oh.
I will try anything once.
Wow.
To be able to say, I don't like it. Because it's those people that always say, oh, disgusting. And I can't stand it. Well, you've never had it. So you can't come to me with fiction.
I don't like the way it looks on the internet.
You know what I mean? Like, well, that's too bad. Try it. Or you have zero opinion. You can't have an opinion if you haven't tried it. You just can't. Right?
I was going somewhere with I was taking it to a place.
I mean,
I'm like, are we gonna have a housewives moment right now? Spit or swallow?
I mean,
you like? I'm gonna give it a try.
If you haven't tried it, don't knock it. That's all I'm gonna say. But if you have, you can say that isn't for me. It's not my milkshake. You know what I mean?
My milkshake. Literally.
Quite literally, right? So that's where I stand with that. And I think that the spice is the variety of life. If you're able to get up in the morning and do even one thing that's against your routine, do that every day. I do.
I love that.
And you sit in an uncomfortable space, even if it's having an uncomfortable conversation. That's awesome. Do it. Like, I wanted to get back to what you were saying about, you have been so transparent about your life from beginning to where you are right now. And it's so refreshing for me as your friend to hear you talk about stuff that would make other people very uncomfortable. It is what it is. Life, we all go through it.
Right.
So what makes you think that just because Shantelle is talking about something like cheating, that it hasn't happened. There's a lot more of that happening than we know. And I love that you gave that situation the grace to understand that there was a part you had to play in that.
100%.
And I think that's very important as human beings, taking responsibility, because we have so many people that don't take any responsibility. It's their fault.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. And it's just so frustrating because you cannot move forward with those people.
No.
Period.
Well, I think, if you're in the mindset of you're the one who suffers.
You suffer
and
at
I
the
didn't
end,
want to
yeah.
suffer anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to have my life be an ode to victimhood and
Right.
suffering.
And defined by that.
Yeah, and I'm like
completely defined by that.
And
yeah.
if that was, infidelity, if that was financial woes, if that was, abuse and I just was like, it's one life.
That's all we got.
That's all you get. It's not a dress
all you get.
rehearsal. And you are totally in the driver's seat.
Yep.
Whether you believe it or not.
You are.
You are. And nobody's coming to save you. And you punishing people and holding everybody responsible for your shitty, small fucking life.
Is your choice. It's a choice you've made.
Period. Period. Period.
Yep.
Period. So I just want to say we have so much more to talk about.
Oh my goodness.
And this is the intro to Pietro. I know you love him as much as I do. So make sure you follow, subscribe, share with your friends, comment, engage with us, ask us questions, because he's going to be back for so many more episodes. I love you.
Dial 41115 on your cell phone, no charges, to like me. I made that
love
up.
him.
To love me.
We'll be
Send me
right
a
back
like.
with another episode. I hope you enjoyed that episode, and I thank you for being here and hanging out. If you've missed past episodes, click up here. And if you're not subscribed, you got to click right down here. Get on that, will you?